So over the last 30 years, I've visited Disney World hundreds of times, literally. And every single time that I go, I see people making the same mistakes over and over and over and over again. So in this video, I'm going to tell you what those commonly made mistakes are and what you should be doing to try and avoid making them yourself. Also, you might want to stick around to the end of this video for probably the best advice anybody's ever given you about visiting Walt Disney World. Just saying. Okay, so number one on our list of commonly made mistakes that I see people do all of the time is I see people wearing the wrong footwear. So it's important to know that when you visit Walt Disney World, it is huge and you are probably going to be covering quite a distance while you're there. I mean, typically when I'm there, I might walk anywhere between 20 and 40,000 steps a day. Like seriously, it's a long way. So you definitely want to make sure that you've chosen the right type of footwear. And that kind of means dressing more for comfort and less for fashion. But hey, if you can get away with both, you do you. What I would recommend is making sure that you've got some nice, comfortable footwear, whether that be training shoes or sneakers, or if you're particularly comfortable in like sliders or sandals. But what I would definitely do, no matter what your option for footwear is, I would try and make sure that you get that footwear broken in at home before you hit those theme parks, because Disney World is not the place to realise that that shoe is kind of rubbing. Okay, the second thing that I see people fall foul of, and I see it every single time I'm there, is people not staying hydrated, not drinking enough fluids. And hey, I get it, buying drinks at Disney World certainly not cheap, but you have to stay hydrated. The really good news is, of course, that Disney will allow you to bring your own drinks into theme parks, so you're not having to pay, you know, whatever it is for a bottle of water these days, $1 million or something like that. You can actually just bring your own water bottles. They've got water bottle filling stations all over the theme parks these days. And also, of course, you can pop into any counter service restaurant and just ask for a cup of ice water for free. They'll provide you with it. Okay, the third mistake I see people making all the time is I sometimes see quite a few hangry people at the theme parks because they didn't bring snacks. Not bringing snacks is a huge error when you're at Disney World. I cannot tell you how many times our trips with the kids would have been completely derailed if we hadn't stored some snacks in the old backpack. Cookies, chips, watermelon chopped up, that's a favourite. You're allowed to bring all this stuff into Disney. I would recommend that you do so, because what tends to happen, especially in our case, and I am speaking from my point of view now, but what happens with my kids, by the time you've driven to the theme parks, parked the car, got on a ferry boat or whatever if you're going to Magic Kingdom, got through the turnstiles and all that business, or touch points I should say now, turnstiles, I'm dating myself there, they've not been there for quite a while. By the time you hit Main Street, you're all ready to get on your first ride or whatever, and then one of them will pipe up and go, "Dad, I'm hungry." So if you haven't got snacks at that moment in time, you are going to be in a world of hurt, because a lot of the restaurants don't actually open till like 10:45, 11 o'clock. So you're kind of really limited to what you can eat, and especially when you first get there coming from the UK and you've got that time difference, you're going to be hitting the theme parks early doors Florida time, but your stomach is going to be telling you that it's lunchtime and you're going to want something to eat. So take some snacks with you because you don't want to end up hangry. The next mistake I see people making all the time, and in all honesty, I've been guilty of it too, and that is not planning for rain. I still sometimes just forget to take a poncho or something with me in the summertime, which is just about the dumbest thing that you can do, because it is probably going to rain a lot. And so the people who don't plan for that are going to have a really long day after that 3 o'clock thunderstorm or whatever. You know, if they can avoid it, you can avoid it. If you time it right and you're clever, you can sometimes get away with not taking that stuff, but you still need to be thinking about planning for rain. So, you know, get the radar apps on your phone, things like that. There's tons of them, they're pretty accurate. You can see, oh, it's going to rain in like 10 minutes, here comes the rain. Go and jump on something like Carousel of Progress, or go and watch PhilharMagic, because a lot of the time those longer shows, they're indoors, it gets you sit down so you get a rest. But also, by the time you come out, the floor will be soaking wet outside and you've completely missed the rain altogether. So that's another option if you can be particularly canny with the old radar on the rain and stuff. You can completely miss rain showers. But for everybody else, I think it's a good rule of thumb. Maybe take a poncho, maybe take a change of socks, or even a change of footwear if you can, just in case you get caught in them downpours, because they can be sudden and they can certainly be very heavy. Hi, hope you don't mind me just stepping in here in this video just to let you know that Florida Tips for Brits has recently started a podcast. And if you're enjoying this video, you might enjoy that too. So maybe when you're done here, you might want to consider checking that out as well for more in-depth information about visiting Orlando and the theme parks. Now back to the video. Okay, the next mistake I see people making all of the time, and this one is going to be, this is difficult, honestly. This is difficult, especially if it's your first time or to visiting Walt Disney World or whatever, and that is going to be to take some breaks. I see people all the time trying to open till close the theme parks every single day of a 2-week holiday, no breaks, 100 mile an hour, non-stop, and honestly, that is probably going to be a huge mistake, especially if you've got kiddos, but even if you haven't. But not only that, don't forget, you don't have to necessarily take a whole day off. Sometimes it might be as simple as nipping into a shop for an aircon break or something like that. Going back to before, you know, staying hydrated. You need to stay cool as well, because it can get very, very hot over there. And if you're doing a lot of mileage and while you're walking, you know, nip into a shop, get an aircon break. You'll feel a lot better if you just spend 10 minutes wandering around a shop, or go and take a show. Like I say, I keep using this one, but something like Carousel of Progress at Magic Kingdom, it's brilliant. It's a long show, you get to sit down, it's air conditioned, you really get a chance to recharge your batteries a little bit, or the People Mover, or any of these other rides. Spaceship Earth at Epcot's another good one, because it's like 15 minutes sit down in air conditioning. It's a brilliant classic ride as well, don't get me wrong, but it's also a great way to kind of do something and also recharge your batteries a little bit. There's lots of rides like that actually throughout the parks, rides, shows, attractions. But other than that, go back to, if you're staying at a resort hotel close by, maybe nip out in the middle of the day when it's hottest and busiest for that matter. Go back to the resort or the villa or whatever the case may be. Have a little bit of pool time, or take a nap, or just take a shower and, you know, just revitalise yourself and charge up and go back to the evenings. You know, especially in the summer months, the parks are open really quite late into the evenings. Might be open till, you know, Magic Kingdom's open till like 11 o'clock or what have you. You've got plenty of time to go and explore. You will enjoy it more. I know it sounds counterintuitive, but I think ultimately you'll end up getting more done and you'll have a better time. Which brings me on nicely to my bonus thing I wanted to talk about, which is not so much a mistake, but just something that I think we all need to remember when we go to these places, and that is, you need to remember to have fun. That's literally the best advice I can give you.